Good morning, friends, and we do mean that. Good morning to you, and thank you for starting your day with us here. I'm Brandon Walker.
Good morning. I know it's rare to see us sitting here on the desk, but you know, we wanted to continue just remembering our good friend as we did last night. So we're happy to be here, starting your weekend Sunday morning off with you. Today I'm Brianna Boudreau. Happy to have all of you here with us.
Yeah, and so we're here. You know why we're here. We're here because we're supposed to be here as with you, remembering a pillar of our community, Eric Paulsen.
We are all still grappling with the sudden news of his death after his courageous fight with cancer. We're taking a look at his journey here at WWL and what shaped Eric into the man that we all loved and also trusted.
Eric Paulsen first started charming the city of New Orleans when WWL-TV launched the Eyewitness Morning News in the late 1970s.
We're going to go to Mary Schoenberger, who is on the West Bank.
And the city fell in love with him when he took our viewers around the world, co-hosting a weekly show called PM Magazine.
PM Magazine.
And I'm Eric Paulsen.
Now, right now, we're on a ferry crossing the English Channel on the way to France. Now, it's here when you start to realize that the 24-hour trip from London to Venice just isn't long enough. Well, when you finally do decide to go to bed, you'll find that the cabin boy has transformed your day coach into a sleeper.
Even early on, Eric was a natural at asking just the right question in just the right way to draw an answer that no one else could get.
What we see on stage, the leather, the spikes, the makeup, is that, I don't know, a part of you?
I think it's, you know, it's fun and everybody likes to play games. I'm not going to go and hurt anybody.
He connected with viewers in his own way, sharing personal milestones like his first solo flight piloting an airplane.
Within a few minutes, when you first start rolling down the taxiway, you can't help but feel a little confident.
And that time he carefully crossed a catwalk that is now the Mississippi River Bridge, even though he knew it was nuts.
Now, to walk on beams like this every day for your job is, to say the least, risky, but to do this for a story, this is crazy.
Eric's epic career was more than just those crazy moments. Over the years, he guided New Orleans through some of its darkest days.
I'll tell you on a personal note, some friends of mine were rescued in St. Bernard, so it was a good day.
Yes.
He was a steady pillar during Hurricane Katrina, questioning those in charge as the levees broke and the humanitarian crisis unfolded on our air.
With this breach in New Orleans we have on this levee, we're about to face real disaster in the city.
Well, it's just absolutely necessary that the Corps get more sandbags into that breach. I mean, we've got to stop it some way, somehow.
That was just one of many hurricanes and storms Eric spent hours anchoring. And Blanco was just one of many governors Paulsen interviewed over the years.
Mike Foster says he appreciates the sense of history, being inaugurated in the same building where his grandfather was inaugurated governor about a century ago.
From Mike Foster to Bobby Jindal to Governor John Bel Edwards.
You put a Democrat in the governor's mansion and all of a sudden you raise taxes.
Well, first of all, I would tell you, you've had a Republican in the governor's mansion for 8 years, and he left the largest budget deficit in the history of our state.
He also said the most important thing he has done in the past 100 days is to the Medicaid expansion. He said that'll save the state $184 million this year alone.
It became a rite of passage for Louisiana's governors to interview with Eric.
Why do you think so many people gave you that mantra of Fast Eddie? Why do you think you had that reputation?
I deserve it. I mean,
Every major election night, Eric was in the trenches for the hottest races.
Well, to say the least, it was a big night for Governor John Bel Edwards.
And a year after Congressman Steve Scalise was shot at a baseball practice, Eric traveled to Washington to see him in action.
And I know your next thing you're doing is physical therapy. You got to get going to that. You're making great progress.
I've got a, kind of a never give up attitude, and persistence has gotten me where I am today.
From congressional and state leaders to mayors, Eric Paulsen questioned them too.
Well, on that issue, and not to point fingers, but kind of pointing fingers, the Sewage and Water Board was neglected for a long time. The catch basins were neglected for a long time. There were some big mistakes made in prior administrations about what to do with the antiquated generating system that should have been upgraded and was not.
That's a fact.
Eric's interviews often made news. In fact, this interview about why relationships turn violent in New Orleans did just that.
While I was interviewing a couple of rappers, a guy who used to be in their rap group started yelling obscenities at us with taunts and threats that got so intense, I stopped the interview. But that did not stop the arguing.
Then we saw the gun and realized this could have turned deadly.
And we can't forget the time former Mayor Ray Nagin was fed up as the feds were closing in on him, and he challenged our news director to a fight in the parking lot on the air with Paulsen. Eric remained cool, as he always did.
You put my personal schedule out there. I am coming back to the station, and me and your news director are going to be outside in the parking lot having a good one-on-one.
Eric's easy on-air chemistry with his co-anchors helped stoke New Orleans' love for him, including Sally Ann Roberts, who Eric struggled to say goodbye to when she retired.
Lawrence and Lucy Marion, who I love dearly.
Then Sheba Turk, and his original co-anchor, the late Andre Trevine, who passed away nearly 10 years ago. Eric told her story then.
It was chemistry. It really was. Because, you know, and a lot of people think that we didn't like each other, but we're friends to this day. We're still friends. We've always been friends. But I'm not going to sit there and let him get away with some of the things he did, and that's what the chemistry was. I think our chemistry, it was the reason for the ratings and everything, because we just had that spark going on.
Last week we lost our dear friend and colleague Don Westbrook, and this week Andre. They were two giants in New Orleans television, and we were so lucky to have known them, and I cannot tell you how privileged I was to have called them friends.
So many of us at WWL feel the same about you, Eric.
Well said. Anchor Katie Moore, thank you for putting that together. Also, photojournalist TJ Pipitone, summing up what Eric meant to us, but showing what Eric meant to us and still means.
Yeah, and it's so fun for us to be able to look back and watch some of those stories that he did, because I got to sit next to him, as did you, and we would sit there and he would tell us about those memories, you know, the good and the bad, and just moments in his life that he remembered, and so getting to see them, but also knowing that personal story. I loved, like, when he was on the plane and did the
that's
so
like,
him,
like
you know, like you're about to take off on a
and look at, it's like,
solo
pay
flight,
attention,
man,
right?
and he's like, yeah.
It's like, you see me, you're rolling.
Yeah.
We were also talking, it's like, you know, of course he would love the fact that we get to sit through a bio package about him over and over and over again.
Because last night we watched it, today, you know, and I enjoy it every time. I feel like I get a piece of him that I missed each time, you know, so it's really fun to go back and watch it, and we'll continue that through the week. But I know he's sitting there going, yeah, I hope you're liking all that.
Right, with that face, right.
Yeah, so many good things to laugh about in memories when you think of Eric. You know, the impact of Eric's passing, of course, being felt across New Orleans, not just here in the WWL studios. In his decades serving the community, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award. We've made that face many times sitting next to him, from the Press Club of New Orleans, and was honored by the New Orleans City Council as well. In a statement, Mayor LaToya Cantrell said in part, quote, Eric Paulsen was more than just a news anchor. He was a fixture in our community and a beloved friend to many. His dedication to his craft and love for our great city were evident in every story he told. He will be deeply missed. The City Council also offered their condolences, saying, quote, the City of New Orleans is forever grateful for all that Eric gave to our city. We will keep his family in our thoughts and pray that he rests in God's perfect peace.